King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at kingcomics.ca, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby. Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Hope you're having a great day. Today we are looking at Darker Image number 1, dated March 1993. I would have been about 12 years old when this issue came out. This week we're tackling controversies, big and small, some involving the whole of the comic industry, and some just maybe possibly just in my head. Nevertheless, some will involve the comics and the content themselves, and some will be more maybe related to the creator or a bit of both. So right away, what we're going to talk about here is Sam Kieth's art style, right? So Sam Kieth, I would qualify for myself at least as my first exposure to somewhat odd or weird styles, maybe how I would have defined it when I was 12 years old. Idea being that at that point I'd been exposed to a lot of kind of house style comics, Marvel and DC house style, and then, kind of the slightly more extreme and cool looking, at least at that time, art of the, the Jim Lees and the Rob Liefelds and the Tom McFarlanes. And then when you see Sam Kieth stuff, there's something kind of off-putting about it, but also very cool. And he's that first artist that kind of opened the door to, slight weirdness, I guess is how I'd put it, and being open to that for myself when I was 12 years old. And eventually that led me to, slightly more independent and then deeply more independent comics along the way. And we'll be looking at more of those this week. But for now, back to Darker Image. We're going to talk about the cover. Fully Sam Kieth here. I discovered this comic once again in a Wizard 16, which is I've quoted as being my favorite issue of Wizard. And there was a news article that mentioned that Sam Kieth was moving over to Image and would be working on Darker Image, an anthology. Never happened. It was just one issue that came out, never an anthology. But thankfully, the best part of that, Sam Kieth moved on to the Max regular series. Issue 1 came out really shortly after this, and it was a nice surprise. But this cover here also features Bloodwolf, who's Rob Liefeld's character, and I'll talk about his story as well once we're done with the Sam Kieth story. And we also have a short story from Jim Lee doing Deathblow. We're not going to go through that one because honestly, it bored me to tears when I was 12. Bores me to tears now. Really just not a great setup for a new character. Nothing really exciting about the story. No big moments or anything. Just a lot of people talking, a lot of setup. So even today, not one of my favorite things to review. So we're not going to. And again, these characters all being interpreted on the cover here by Sam Kieth. I find Bloodwolf kind of, has that Sam Kieth vibe. He's doing a little bit of the Deathblow style with the shadows and stuff, but still firmly within, the world of Sam Kieth and his art and his very texture heavy art, which I think is great and I really enjoy. We're going to crack this one open. All right, so credits, Sam Kieth, story art, Bill Messner-Loeb's dialogue. I know at this point Sam Kieth, in the article, I'm pretty sure, that same article that I read that informed me about this, was kind of, stating he wasn't super confident for dialogue. So Bill Messner-Loeb's he had worked with before in some independent comics, so he came and helped out. So basically, Sam Kieth is doing Marvel-style art plot, and then Messner-Loeb's is coming over and adding dialogue and narration. Steve Oliff on colors. That's why this issue looks great and has kind of that, dark early Image vibe that I think Steve Oliff really kind of created there originally. More for the McFarlane studio than anything else, but, there's a few issues of Youngbloody color that are still within kind of that darker palette, or palette. So, Jim Sinclair's thrown in here as finishes, so I'm assuming he's kind of inking and maybe is some sort of assistant to Sam Kieth. I could be wrong on that. And the Bloodwolf story we're going to look at, and I'll talk more about it obviously when we get there. Rob Liefeld, very interesting story and art. Steve Oliff, I guess with an assist from Byron Talman doing colors, and Kurt Hathaway doing the lettering. Mike Heisler doing letters for the Max. If I didn't mention it, I don't remember if I did. So as a 12-year-old, super excited. Redrew this to death. Used it for all sorts of characters. Great kind of showcase for what Sam Keith does best. Weird characters. The Max himself, such an odd looking thing. We'd learn later that it's based on a rabbit. Again, weird choice, but it kind of works here. And I mean, I never would have guessed that if you hadn't ever told me that. We're getting a lot of the grit and grime that Sam Keith likes to add. And of course, because it's his own character, he can just kind of go as crazy as he wants, which I feel he does here, right? It's still very familiar and Sam Keithy, but like pushed to another level of extreme, I find, even compared to the Marvel Comics Presents stuff with Wolverine and Venom. Always wondered what this was down here, right? And literally it's just come to me now where I thought as a kid, I'm like, is that some sort of animal that's down below this branch, just the silhouette of it? What I think happened here now is that this was the shape of usually Sam Keith's signature. So for some reason or another, his signature was there. They wanted to take it out, I guess, and there was no time or something, so they just blacked it out. Looks a little weird, but, you know, as a kid, it's a mystery of comics and printing, I guess, and it didn't really bother me that much. You know, the art is still amazing. I'm sure the artist, if that's what it is, you know, Sam Keith is mortified. The guy making the book, when he sees something like this, oh my God, mortified. I do have to mention that the Max also obviously shares my name. So as a 12-year-old boy reading comic books, obviously that attracted me to this character as well. And I even started writing my name with 2 X's for a little while there because obviously super geeky, nerdy comic book guy. We tend to do those kinds of things. I also, you know, always wondered about, you know, is this done on purpose? Is this cheeky? Is this tongue-in-cheek kind of humor where, you know, he's giving us the finger constantly, but it's actually just, you know, a claw that comes out at that point? I don't know. But it does work visually and is interesting. Even these kind of gloves here, which I think in the half issue or something, it said he plunged in lava or something. So whatever, design-wise, I think it totally works. But it does make for just an odd, you know, design that no one else could pull off. I think the Max is one of the harder characters for other artists to draw. Great open panel here, setting the scene. I like these broken panels. One image broken into a few panels just cuts time a bit, makes it a little more interesting, as funny as that sounds. Just doing things like that. Great storytelling, directional devices, right, for the eye. And he seems to stick with this open, you know, no border motif all throughout. I know most of the pages. Great upshot here. Forced perspective. Some more great bits of storytelling. Some smaller drawings. All very effective. Get a nice shot here of this character. Typical weird Sam Keith design that, you know, no one else could come up with. No one else could draw properly, I'm sure. Or make look that cool. You know, pot-bellied kind of hippopotamus face guy. I find he kind of looks like a hippopotamus. Great shot of the Max. Tattered costume, as always, in all the shots from the beginning, right? You know, no matter what the scale, even here, Sam Keith is using that telephone wire kind of texture that he kind of developed on Marvel Comics Presents for tattered clothing or costumes. Works to great effect here. I like how he's not afraid to just kind of do straight, bold lines for outlines. Make it a little more angular, right? Makes it interesting. So the giant running after the Max, going towards, I don't know. This looks like a dead chicken to me. I think it ends up being some sort of mountain, right? But like sometimes I wonder with Sam Keith, does his inspiration come from weird things like that and he just kind of works it into his comic? I know I do stuff like that sometimes. So heightening of drama. Hammer's getting closer and closer. About to hit the Max. Even these little, I've always loved these. I use these. I don't think I got it from Sam Keith. European comics, more kind of cartoony comics. Use that a lot. The kind of drops coming out here. I mean, it's not, he's not the first to do it. I'm not the first to do it, but I really love using those. And I like that he uses it here. And these are the shots, that I saw, I believe, once again in that wizard. So I really have kind of quite an affinity for this page here. The design, right, is really out there. Okay, but the reading direction, the reading cues are still very clear, right? You almost got like a number 2 design. I don't know if you guys can see that, right? That's kind of what's going on there. So you start here, you come up, she's, that leg's going that direction. These clearly lead down to the action, here, and the body leads us to the right here. These are all things as an artist that you do somewhat consciously think about, not always, okay, but you got to be kind of aware of, so as not to create confusion when anyone's reading your comic, right? So that's a good example of that. Even though it's a busy page and there's a lot going on and it's very designy, still very clear and easy to read, right? This panel is great. The perspective here with the skulls. This pose is great. The texture of the wood as he crashes in, that's awesome. I don't know exactly what this is. Some sort of poison, obviously, but the actual device, just weird choices that Sam Keith makes. And so we realized that, as is the premise of the Max, is that he was basically just hallucinating a lot and is actually, not some sort of jungle lord in the real world. And that's where we kind of meet Julie as well. And I mean, the design of these 2 pages completely work together, right? It's just almost as one unit kind of works. You could almost call it a double page spread. And there you are. There's something weird I find here and there with the formatting, like the fact that the lettering gets cut off here. Something happened there. He wasn't aware of this white border or something. There's others, the top of this panel seems to be missing. I've seen a little bit of evidence here and there of that. Maybe more of a printing snafu like this, formatting. Not the end of the world though. Still, enjoy the comic. But again, as a comics creator, this here would mortify me. And I guess it's really not the end of the world, is it? Using some screen tones here, which, slowly would kind of phase out of 90s comics. So this might be some of the last instances of Sam Keith using it. There may be some in Max #1, but, eventually I think the screen tone kind of, this to me gives it a very kind of early 90s Marvel look, this whole panel here. And of course we finish off with the super cool splash shot of the Max here. Once again, all the Sam Keith tropes, the textures, the telephone wire, tatters, all over the place, insane. It's Image Comics. You do more. Just like Yngwie Malmsteen, if you know who that is, a guitar player. Someone had said to him, less is more. And he didn't agree, and he said, no, more is more. And that's kind of his philosophy when he plays guitar. So, this is kind of Yngwie Malmsteen in art, or at least that philosophy. Always wondered about this bit here. Sometimes, Sam Keith will just throw in stuff that you'll never see again. So is that just some really loose, huge tatters? I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what this is. I will say, though, it looks cool. And when you're 12 years old, that's pretty much what's important. And at my age today, 30 odd years later, still looks pretty cool to me. All right, moving on. We're going to hit that second story. Okay. Blood Wolf. Now, this would be the controversial kind of aspect of this book to me. Okay. So at that point, I did not know a lot about Lobo. Okay. Now, if you don't know who Lobo is, you can look it up. But even not knowing a lot about Lobo, the first time I read it, I didn't pick up on it, right? But I thought there was something strange about the story, and there's something I wasn't quite getting. And eventually I figured out that, basically, as I got older and was able to read more Lobo comics and just know generally a little bit more about the character, I realized that this was Rob Liefeld basically doing a riff on Lobo with his own character here. Down to the style of storytelling and kind of based, I think, on the Keith Giffen, Lobo style that he did in Lobo Infanticide. I think that's a starting point. And, Rob Liefeld's kind of known for this. We'll look at other issues this week, actually, that Rob Liefeld has produced that you could argue, he's swiping or ripping off from other artists. I don't know what to say about that because artists have been doing that for years. So good or bad, it happens. And with Rob Liefeld, it's so blatant sometimes that maybe, you kind of get the sense that he wants you to know he's doing it on purpose. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But, this is kind of where it starts. He's known for that. And I'll go more into detail when we hit that issue later this week. So yeah, we got the character flying in through space on a huge motorcycle. Looks like a gun. Once I knew more about Lobo, again, understood that was a riff on that. The reason I like this story, I'll be honest, is the art. This is completely inked by Rob Liefeld himself, and there's a much rougher edge to it. And like I said, I feel like some of this is Keith Giffen, and like I said, Rob Liefeld's gonna riff on so many artists, when Stephen Platt gets popular, you start seeing some of that in Rob Liefeld's art. Early on when he's doing New Mutants, there's a bit of McFarlane that creeps in there, a bit of Mignola. He seems to not be able to not put that influence, obviously into his art for a certain period. And then he kind of, I think, assimilates the better parts of it and then moves on to other stuff. So this is definitely kind of a rougher line Lobo kind of look that he's going for. And like I said, some of these elements where there's no texture, no darks or anything added, like the boots here, I definitely think he's getting that from Keith Giffen. Lobo actually in the comic here, as they meet. I always thought this was weird too, because like they're supposed to be walking past each other, but I feel like no distance was actually, crossed between these two panels here. The Bloodwolf's legs changed over. I don't know if he's doing squats in front of Lobo. It's just storytelling wise, it's this and this is very odd. But we'll forgive it because we move on and look at the other pretty awesome drawings. Things like this, pretty sure definitely lifted from Lobo, right? So it's a chance for Rob to amp up the gore here, which I'm fine with. We'll be seeing more of that again this week. Yeah, so Rob Liefeld doing kind of a rougher but definitely interesting style, I would say. This here too, really feel like that's a Keith Giffen riff there. Again, if you're familiar with Keith Giffen on Lobo and a bit of Trencher, you might see it. Right, we got more of it here in the background. Like all of this whole panel here, I always loved because I feel it was done very quickly. And Rob's really kind of like some of the cartooniest Rob Liefeld, the running here and stuff. I really like this panel here. I think it's like good cartooning. Better cartooning overall than some of Rob's other stuff. The images may look cooler and like the details and stuff, but there's just something cool about this, where if he drew in this style kind of more and constantly, that'd be super interesting, and I would definitely check that out. Obviously, we got Cable here with a Y instead of an X, so I guess that saves you from copyright infringement. Maybe. I don't know how that works exactly. We finally, people argue and bitch in some videos about, these things that Rob Liefeld tends to draw behind some of his characters' backs. Are they pieces of, a gun, some sort of tube, some exhaust? What is that? Still not sure what it is, but at least here he's offered up an explanation as to, how they fit on the back. And he's actually gone and drawn a harness here, which is surprising because, most times he doesn't. So I don't know if someone told him about that or mentioned it, but here, whatever those are the, short oars. That's what they look, the closest I can, is like I said, he's got a boat and he's going rafting or something, and he's got some very short oars. Other than that, I don't know what those are. Spatulas for like when you make fudge and stuff, just really big. I don't know. So Rob Liefeld having some fun here and just having, Bloodwolf unleash some carnage, just shooting everybody. Pretty much like Lobo. And of course, the ultimate kind of, conclusion to this, as we notice that the motorcycle or his ship or whatever you call that space cycle is shaped like a gun. So, the biggest Liefeld gun you've ever seen. And these guys are toast. He's left a little present behind. Big trouble, we're told. And of course the planet blows up. Pretty sure once again this is a ripoff of Lobo. You know, I think he if I remember correctly, Lobo destroyed his homeworld. That's why they called him the last Xarnian or Zarnian. I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce that. So he's actually the last of his race because he annihilated the rest of them. So you know, hearing that, I think maybe this is just like some sort of riff on that. But basically, yeah, the most extreme thing he could do as he leaves is destroy the whole planet. And there you go. As I said, not going to go through Jim Lee's Deathblow stuff. Not interesting to me. But there you have it. Darker Image #1. Check it out. There's hundreds and hundreds of copies out there. Just a fun kind of super graphic, awesome artist book. And that is it for today's review. Thank you so much for checking it out, and hopefully see you tomorrow. Like and subscribe. Have a great day.